Tonight, it is a slow-moving constitutional crisis happening before our eyes. Well, that is what some are describing. What has happened now in the aftermath of Jeff Sessions being fired as Attorney General, replaced by a man best described as a Trump loyalist and a vocal critic of the Mueller probe. A probe this man now oversees. Is the president trying to put an end to the Russia investigation? Then, Tuesday, depending on your perspective, a very good night for Democrats nationally and in our region, or one where, well, let's just call it a split decision. Well, Dems won the House, unified control in New York, and won some governor's mansions, but the Senate's gap even wider. So why are so many Dems so down on the party's chances for 2020? And what are the landmines the new Democratic majorities in D.C. and Albany will have to do to avoid? Later on, Trump's anti-press conference. We've got, I'd call them lowlights, and we'll also ask if we have reached a breaking point between POTUS and the press. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to RFL. I'm Richard French, and we begin at the Justice Department, where the firing of the Attorney General Jeff Sessions and the actions of President Trump may be moving the nation into the beginnings of a slow-moving constitutional crisis, one that's happening in plain sight of the American public. Sessions, as you know, he's out. That much at least is clear tonight. The AG, who implemented a slew of Trump policies but remained a Trump enemy for his temerity in recusing himself from the Russia investigation, well, he resigned yesterday, some would say at political gunpoint, saying it was at the president's request. Sessions reportedly asked to stay through Friday. Chief of Staff John Kelly, of course, assigned to do the dirty work, said, no, clean out your office today. In a normal administration, Sessions number 2, Rod Rosenstein, he would take over as acting Attorney General, but this is not a normal administration. So the White House promoted this guy, talk about the tall, bald guy here, Matthew Whitaker, who was Sessions' chief of staff, apparently appointed over Sessions' objections, and someone who apparently had a lot of connections to this White House as acting AG instead of the aforementioned Rosenstein. So what do we know about Whitaker? Well, he's been described, as I said, as a Trump loyalist, a Republican loyalist, and a critic of the Mueller investigation. And it's not dividing this. He said this on TV. The White House has now given him oversight of said Mueller probe. But Democrats, and I should say a few Republicans, they're calling for Whitaker to recuse himself from the probe, citing his comments about the investigation on TV last year. The latest chapter in what has been a dizzying 2 years at the Justice Department. President Trump parted ways with his embattled Attorney General, Jeff Sessions, often targeted by the president, who was infuriated when he recused himself from the Russia probe.
He took the job, and then he said, I'm going to recuse myself. I said, what kind of a man is this?
Now the man in charge of that probe and the Justice Department is Sessions' former chief of staff, Matt Whitaker, who has in the past proposed ways for an acting Attorney General to end the Mueller investigation.
So I could see a scenario where Jeff Sessions is replaced with a recess appointment, and that Attorney General doesn't fire Bob Mueller, but he just reduces his budget so low that his investigation grinds to almost a halt.
An op-ed in the New York Times by lawyer George Conway, should be noted Kellyanne Conway's husband, saying, quote, President Trump's installation of Matthew Whitaker as acting Attorney General of the United States after forcing the resignation of Jeff Sessions is unconstitutional. It's illegal. Democrats, in a letter to top administration officials, saying committees will be investigating Sessions' departure. Some are even calling for Whitaker to recuse himself, but the president's advisors, they disagree.
Why would he be recused? We had an attorney general who was recused from it. We now don't have an acting attorney general who's recused from it. Nobody wants to prolong it.
By the way, that's the same Kellyanne Conway who's the wife of Mr. Conway, who wrote that piece saying that this is unconstitutional. Okay, anyway, the situation at Justice and the fate of the Mueller investigation is now in such jeopardy that even moderate Democrats are beginning to describe it in ways we have not heard since, well, Watergate.
Are we approaching a constitutional crisis?
I think we're on the verge of that. What raises my concerns is a person who's been so vocal against the investigation that was going on, now putting in charge a day after the election. I think that sheds bad light on it. I just want to make sure that we're able to get to the end of this investigation with the team in place. Right now that team has been disrupted, and if they pull Rosenstein out, which they've done, Gail, we're in trouble.
For a little perspective here, let's bring in our panel tonight. Richard Brodsky, in the colorful shirt, is former Democratic New York State Assemblyman from Westchester. You can bring sight back to a blind man with that outfit. He's also a professor at NYU. Dominic Carter, political journalist and author. Conservative strategist Bill O'Reilly. Bill was communications director for the Mark Molinaro gubernatorial campaign. We'll talk about the election results on Tuesday a little bit later in the program. And Andrew Whitman, our senior political correspondent. Now, guys, I showed everybody what George Conway had to say, and obviously Kellyanne's husband, which makes that notable in its own right. But also, I wanted to play from, of all places, the legal expert at Fox News, Judge Napolitano, which I agree with maybe twice a year, depending on the full moon. But listen to what he had to say about Whitaker, his elevation, the removal of Sessions, and I guess what could happen to the Mueller probe.
So with deference and respect to what the president is trying to do, he has every right to have whoever he wants run the Justice Department. He has chosen someone who does not qualify under the law to be the acting Attorney General of the United States. So he's really not.
Okay. So, Richard, barrister, there's questions, forget about, we'll get in a moment about both the appearance and the practice of what this means for the rule of law in the executive branch and who it is or is not reportable to, seemingly. But as a legal matter, there's a debate as to where the Vacancies Act allows someone to be appointed, the distinction whether he resigned or whether he was fired, or whether or not you can't just supersede and just jump the Deputy Attorney General. We don't know the answer to these questions right now. I mean, people have strong opinions on it. But where do you believe that question is resolved? At the legislature or at the courts?
Nowhere. It will be superseded by subsequent events which are likely to occur fairly quickly. Look, those are not trivial matters.
My God, you did answer this like an attorney. I'm just saying, is it legal to be able to basically jump Rosenstein and to have a non-confirmed acting Attorney General
nobody knows.
in the probe?
Nobody knows.
And you don't tell me if you think it's going to be answered by a court, or it's going to be answered by the legislature.
It's going to drift away into the ether. And the reason that's going to be the case is because what really matters is what happens to Mueller. And if this character, Whitaker, pulls a stunt and really undermines that, then the legalisms will be in second place.
Okay.
The integrity of the Mueller investigation is what matters, and that's what anybody should be focusing on right now.
Okay. Bill. This is not just an optics question. We all knew it was when, not if, that Sessions was gone. Clearly, they said, don't do anything, let the midterms happen, and there we go. But to choose to do it the way, forget how badly he treated him on the way out the door, but to literally not answer a question at a press conference and to push him out day of on Wednesday, you don't do that unless there's a reason behind it. He couldn't stand Sessions' face for a long time. He still, managed to coexist. I think he's doing this because he's afraid the Mueller report's going to come out soon. So my point, albeit to Richard, is, hey, okay, you put a new guy in. It wasn't just to, vent on Sessions. You're going to do it for a reason. He's going to want to shut this thing down. And by the way, Whitaker has said in previous interviews when he was a talking head on TV that, hey, you can starve the funding for the probe here. You can shut them down entirely. He believes that this was all a witch hunt from jump. So you do this for a reason. If he moves ahead and he makes a move on Mueller, whether to compromise the probe here or to shutter it completely, then what?
I can't possibly imagine that he would shut down the Mueller probe.
Why?
But
why do you think
he's making every move towards doing that? This is the logical succession of events towards
Otherwise,
doing
why
that.
do it?
Because he will lose
in
a huge way.
Why make this move now, before the Mueller report is done, unless you were doing it for a reason?
I think he wanted to get rid of Sessions, and he was waiting until after the midterms. And they'll replace the temporary, soon enough. But if he tries to make that happen, the Republicans, to me, that's the greatest opportunity that my party would have to redeem itself.
I happen to agree with you. I'll get that in a minute. But you don't believe that Trump will have Whitaker make a move on Mueller?
It would be the dumbest thing in the history of the presidency.
Say no. Do you think
but
he
I didn't
will?
say no.
Yeah, I do.
Me too.
I think he's going to test every limit he can possibly test and say, basically, I dare you to stop me. I think whether this appointment is legal or not, he doesn't care. he'll just wait for somebody to challenge him. He's gonna knock out Mueller one way or another, and he doesn't care. He'll wait to see if anybody actually holds him to account. I don't know from where you're getting the idea, Bill, that Republicans would all of a sudden grow a backbone and actually hold the president to account on anything,
and just
when they haven't done it so far.
Point, Bill.
They would have to on this, or their party would disappear.
He basically kissed the posterior of Vladimir Putin at a summit, and all got tisk from the Republicans.
But just to amplify
actually, Republicans voted to put through sanctions on Russia.
Ooh, okay, but Bill, hold on a second though. This was all avoidable because, we can do this in technical of the clip, but people will trust me. Democrats and some Republicans said, let's author legislation, veto proof that will guarantee the Mueller probe will go to its in final conclusion without any interference. They will basically immunize the Mueller probe. McConnell said, no, there's no need because nothing could ever possibly happen to jeopardize it. I will say we are on that doorstep. Apparently, there's more movement right now to bring legislation. The only reason you're right why Republicans wouldn't stand for it is they'd vote for that now, so they wouldn't have to cross the president more publicly later on. I say they don't vote for it because they've had 5 chances. They didn't take one at any point. And I think Tuesday further cements the fact that it is his party. It's no longer the Republican Party, as you've said 100 times in this program.
There are 30-odd Republicans in the House who might have been willing to protect Trump before he announced their names and called them losers at a press conference.
Richard, I'm with you, and one of them is John Fassel. We'll talk about that today. But my point is, Dom, he has emasculated at every point. He has cavorted with national enemies. He's done all the things we all know that we've never seen anyone ever do before of whatever party. And, by the way, he got, wherever he campaigned, they won some Senate seats. They are not going to cross him. And I think Trump's going to make a move on Mueller. You knew him for 30 years before he became president. Do you see anything in his DNA to say he has been waiting for this? Apparently, reports are he's scared, you know what, that his son, and maybe to a lesser degree son-in-law, are the next ones in the crosshairs of Mueller. He's got to move now if he's going to move at all.
Absolutely. I agree with your point. And I want to answer the question that you put to Richard initially. Richard, Whitaker, the acting AG, he was put there to make a move. And he's going to make a move on Mueller. And it's already effective, and the term effective, it depends on which way you're looking at this, because there are reports that Mueller's already rushing to write his report. So the mere fact that he's been appointed, and it's not legal, because what's in it, except for his U.S. attorney appointment in Iowa, who gave him Senate confirmation to be number 2 and now number 1 at the Justice Department. So they're going to make a move, and it may be resolved in court.
And I know we're already on time, but to me, where I think the most important conversation isn't the political jockeying for this, but we had the smartest guys in our history and our founding fathers to put something together with an idea of checks and balances. That we had 3 co-equal supposed branches of government. And the idea that we sit here in early November of 2018 and we worry what I believe, these guys say I'm wrong, I believe with Dominic, it is going to happen in Andrew. We're going to have to decide if a president can decide if he's not only above the law, but will decide what the law is, let alone anything that will apply to him or even to be investigated. And if you don't think that is under the constitutional crisis, I think we're normalizing everything. All right, we shall see. Coming up next, though, we do talk about those midterms. Democrats, as you know, they took the House. Republicans kept the Senate and added a couple seats. But that's just the headline. What will Tuesday mean for politics going forward in the next couple of years in particular? We'll take a big picture look next.